1, 2. Oh, don't need to wear these, do I? But yeah. Forgot about that. Hopefully I don't pull the mic cable out. It's caught in the box. Hello, welcome to the stand-up. I haven't done one of these in like a while now. We were quite disciplined at the start. We were doing them for every ticket and sometimes doing multiple stand-ups a day and was trying to show the progress of everything going on. And the reason why I've not been doing these stand-ups is because I discovered Cursor. And that took over me in crazy ways. So we're going to talk about it a little bit and how I've been working with it and what's been happening. So let's pull this up. I'm going to put up a Confluence whiteboard and we can go through what happened to me in my process in Cursor and we will draw this up. And I do love a bit of Cursor. I do love a whiteboard. No, is it in the other place I create the whiteboard? Maybe it is actually. Yes, because this is probably a Real 8 software video. Right, let's do a whiteboard. Okay, Cursor and AI. So, what happened to me? Well, let's talk about a little bit about. Oh, we've got new shapes at last. More shapes. Just to say, I love Miro. I used it for many, many years. I'm going on to Confluence with the whiteboard now because I'm trying to centralize everything. Right, there's me. And what I'm doing is I have my computer and I use my computer to build the game. Right, to repeat the line I say all the time in my professional life, not a developer, don't pretend to be one. But with AI tools and Cursor, it's opened up a whole new world for me because what it's meant is that I can give pretty good requirements to developers. And as such, I'm giving that to an AI tool now. The AI tools are giving me out the code that I need. And I've got a little bit of an understanding to be able to talk a little bit to it and just ask a few questions. So the process has been going all right. So how we've been building the game so far is such as this. So there's me on my computer. Okay. On my computer, I have, what do I have? I have Godot. And what are we going to use for Godot? We'll use this shield as Godot. Okay. So in my computer, I program in Godot. But how do I actually do that? Well, in my computer, I open up a web browser. Can I put text on this? I can do, which I'm going to call ChatGPT. Let's change up the colors a little bit, light grey. There we go. Cool. And then with ChatGPT, what I was doing was on my computer, I'd go to ChatGPT, put in requirements, and then that would give me code. Whoop, there we go. Which I would then, so I, on my computer, give the requirements to ChatGPT, on my code, and I, via my computer, because that is the important part here, copy and paste the code in. Okay? So what was happening was, this is the loop that was going on, was I'm on my computer, speak to ChatGPT, gives me code, I copy and paste it into Godot, we find out whether or not it works or not. If it works, move on to the next one. Okay, and this was particularly when I was building something in Unity first off. I was prototyping and sort of like the first projects I started on, which is Tim Barton Teaches Typing, which I hope to release one day in the future, or actually hope to continue. So that was the initial setup. Then what happened was ChatGPT just wasn't doing it for me, and the problems that I had with ChatGPT at the time were that it had short memory. Move that over. It had short memory. you could do a large conversation, but it forgot things in sort of the thread of the conversation. So the main part of the real main problem was it had a short memory. And then actually when I switched from, it had outdated information, particularly as well, when I then switched and started doing, using Godot, I found it to have quite outdated information. So I was like, all right, cool. Now, there's actually one other missing part in this process as well, which we do need to talk about, and that is JIRA. So I wonder if they've got an icon for themselves. JIRA, Atlassian, how can you not have an icon for yourselves? You need an icon for yourself. All right, we're going to use a database icon for them because they're kind of databasey. Right, so what I was also doing was, I'll call this, can I change the name? Yeah, I can change the name. JIRA. So what I was doing was on my computer, I'd put requirements into, I would write the requirements up. I'd put the requirements as like a top level. No, it's actually not the requirement. It was the requirements, but it was like informal requirements. No, it was like informal requirements, and by that it was like I want a Kanban board and I want to work this way or that way. It wasn't my formal user story, details, and acceptance criteria. So then what I started doing, right? So it was sort of informal requirements, and so actually we're going to take JIRA off, and we're going to call this, change that, a bit grey. This was version 1. So this was like my first setup, okay. So then what we done is we moved over and then we started on, essentially version 2 appeared. Now, what version 2 had, you know what, can I get you away? How do I close you down? Yeah, that would do. One side, I'll set the collapse. Oh, yeah, there it is. Ooh, right there. There, cool. Right. So then we go to version 2, and this is when I got a little bit better. So what we started doing then was, go back to our icons over here. Database. Okay. So then we have JIRA. So what I then started doing was on my computer, I'd put in informal requirements into ChatGPT. From there, I would then get, so I put informal requirements into ChatGPT. It would generate the formal requirement, user story, etc., into JIRA. Okay. So then I was keeping a record of everything that was going on and what I was developing. Because the reason why I was doing this is I'm quite committed currently to what JIRA are doing with Rovo. And, you know, part of the Real8 software business is that I want to go quite heavy in on Atlassian. I've used Atlassian for the last 10 years. I really like it. I can do a piece later on about why I choose Atlassian over Trello and Monday and all that kind of stuff in the future. But I'm sort of going in on it. So I was like, okay, I want to start building out all of my requirements, everything into JIRA. So informal requirements into ChatGPT goes into JIRA. Okay, cool. But then we stopped using ChatGPT for code because of the problems we mentioned. So then we started using, we're going to use this one for this. We started using Claude. And what I found with Claude, and this is how it works. So I would send the requirements to Claude. So I'm on my computer. I come up with an idea. I have an informal requirement. I put that in ChatGPT. I get the formal story, which is in JIRA. I then send that requirement to Claude. And then we go back to this thing about Claude gives me code. And Let's bring that up a little bit there. There we go. Oh, that's quite nice. That shows the circle. Look at that. Gives me the code, and then I copy and paste that into my computer, which goes into not Shield, Godot. So that was the circle that we had going on. And this was version 2. And version 2 was going okay, but version 2 had some problems with it. The main problem, again, was a problem I had with Claude. And that problem was thread limitations. And then the throttling, which is quite a new thing they came up with, where all of a sudden it was like you've run out of your usage, you've hit your usage send max, you've got to wait now 50 days. You know, not 50 days, you've got to wait like 5 hours until you can start using it again. Because what that was doing to me was that was meaning that I was having real like intense coding sessions sort of first thing in the morning and then running out of time. There was other problems that I, as the user, was doing with Claude as well. And mainly around that was, and if we, let's do, what color should we do here? Let's do yellow for my shitty usage of Claude. Okay. I got lazy with it. Lazy. Because with ChatGPT, it didn't give me like the full answer. It was out of date information, so I had to kind of figure out how to sort of like update the information or ask it a lot more questions. Claude was just giving me fucking like strings of functions. It was giving me great artifacts. It's giving me documentation explaining what was going on. But then what I end up doing is lazy copy and pasting. Where all I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting this code here into the computer, and Godot's giving me bugs and errors. So let's do, I get a bug. So Godot comes back to me with, oh, move you there. Can I make this line red? I can do, have it. So Godot's giving me bugs, and then I go back to my computer, informal requirements, and this circle. But the main part of the problem was that I become lazy with the copy and pasting. And that was causing us issues. I also as well reached the problem with Claude where there was a couple of things that I just couldn't get. Some days I'd have it where like there'd be like some features we'd be building or some tasks, which I was like, oh, these should be quite easy, said the classic product manager. But I felt they were quite well mapped out. They were quite required. Like it didn't seem to be anything too extreme with what I was doing. And I just couldn't get to. I couldn't get Claude to give me. I couldn't get Claude to give me the results that I wanted. And again, I go back to laziness because as well, if we go from version 1, where I'm putting in formal requirements into ChatGPT, but I'm working on it with ChatGPT, to all of a sudden like AI is writing up my requirements, and they are writing up the requirements really good. But I've been using ChatGPT for requirements since the moment it came out publicly. So I know how to write a requirement with it, and I can get expanded group requirements from it. I know how to use the tool because I spent, I don't know, 7-8 years beforehand writing up user stories and acceptance criteria. So I've got a handle on it. But really what it comes down to is the failure on this version was the thread limitations and throttling from Claude, but then also as well, really me being lazy in the copy and pasting. Now, there was a version 2.5 that appeared. And version 2.5 was when I discovered that JIRA can automatically send Claude the requirements. And as well, Claude, put you like that there, put you back to where you were. It's going that way. Claude can update tickets and documentation. Now, in terms of laziness, that's where it really comes in. Because all of a sudden, I mean, and actually, if we're going to refine format 2 here for a minute, actually, sorry, because it is, let's have a look here. JIRA, I get the things into JIRA, and then actually, sorry, let me just. I send the requirements to there. Send the requirements to Claude. JIRA goes there. That's in there. Yeah. Which goes into the computer, which I then send the requirements over to Claude. So sorry, that was part of. Apologies, we're going around. We're agile. We're adapting to it. Goes into JIRA. So ChatGPT, I get a formal user story. That goes into back into my computer. Boop. It's nice, this tool. It's really nice, this. There you go. Formal user story for ChatGPT goes to my computer. And then I put that into my JIRA. And then also I send the requirements to Claude. So I'm doing it in 2 spaces as well. Actually, there's another thing that we forgot. Sorry, surprise, as it was going on. The other thing that I started using at this time is... There's not really an icon for it. Let's use this. I started using GitHub. Which, fuck me, really saved me quite a few times. What Claude can do, Claude can read GitHub to read the code base. And that was solved the problem that we had up here with ChatGPT, which was about short memory and outdated information. Because all of a sudden, Claude had access to the code base as it was getting up to date. There's another thing as well that I'd done, which was just to add another line in for JIRA. There was a sync up. Oh, there is a sync up between JIRA and GitHub with regards to the commits of the tickets. So each ticket, so the commits and the branches that I'd do in GitHub would be the ticket numbers in JIRA. And then in JIRA, you can see it here on, so look, some of these here. See these little icons? It indicates the commit. Oh, sorry, you can't see the icon because my face is in the way. Let me pull it up. Yeah, there you go. Oh, God, my face is still in the way. So let's bring it over there. There we go. So we can see here, there's the commit. Because the ticket ID, OTIF 188, when I put that into GitHub, like I do here, I go to my history, I put the ticket IDs, and then it goes into JIRA, so then it's tracking. So that way I can always see what ticket was what commit, what job it was, etc. Okay. So I'm having a great time. We're building everything. Everything's going great. And then we get to version. So that's sorry, that was version 2. If we go back to version 2.5. Boom. What happened with version 2.5 is that JIRA then was sending the requirements to Claude. And there was an interaction going on straight up between the two of them. I've lost myself now. Was this 2? This was 2. Hold on a minute. Let's just go through this again. We're agile. I put it into the computer. GitHub's got the sync there. Oh, yeah, that's it. Right, so I'm sending the JIRA sending requirements to Claude. But then what happens is that Claude goes, you know what, mate? I can update your tickets for you. And that just blew my mind. And there's a video I've done about this where it started updating tickets and it started documentation and Confluence and everything. So there's this really nice loop that's going around up here now where it's just, again, it's taken more time for me. And again, it's made me more lazy. And that's the main thing. It's just making me more lazy. Right. And then, so that we're all happy with. And then we get version 3. So how we landed on version 3 was I had a bug. I can't remember what bug it was. It was a feature we were building and I was blotting it for like 2-3 days. I'm just getting nowhere with Claude. I can't go through it. I remember someone I used to work with had spoken to me about Cursor in the past. So I was like, fine, let's install Cursor. I didn't fully understand what it was. And here is how this setup was working with Cursor. So let's clear all these lines out. And we can go through what was going on. Yeah, this is a good place to start. Okay. So, what should we use for Cursor? We'll do server. Okay. So we've got Claude, we've got Cursor, and we'll move this up here. We've got ChatGPT, we've got JIRA. Actually, that's probably a bad idea, putting them in a line, actually thinking about it. There we go. Okay. So, there's me on my computer. I have an idea. I send an informal requirement through to ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives me a set of requirements. I then put them requirements into Cursor. So send the user story. Send, let's say, full ticket. I send the full ticket through to Cursor. And fucking Cursor does the code and then does it directly into Godot. For me, boom. Because all of a sudden it's taken out this piece of, that also was the problem that I had here with the copy and pasting with Claude, was that I'd get limitations. Cursor's got really no limitations on me. I've got no throttling. But this other part is I need to understand what's going on. And sometimes with some of the technical questions, I just didn't understand. I didn't know how to challenge it, right? Now, this thing's just off. So all of a sudden, I've got this gap where I'm giving ChatGPT an informal requirement. It's then giving it back to me. Ooh. Full ticket. I'm then sending the full ticket to Cursor, and Cursor's just coding, and it's just changing it into Godot, and now I'm getting the bugs, and I've just got this loop that's going round, right? I've still got GitHub, but there, I might be wrong here, and please in the comments let me know if I'm wrong. I haven't figured out or really sat down yet and done the Cursor and GitHub integration that I think you can do. But the other thing is Cursor can't read my GitHub, can't read my code base because it reads it directly off my machine. So what ended up happening was that I went from this very disciplined approach in version 2 of my working pattern, where every ticket was being tracked, bugged, user storied up, etc., etc. So then I got to here, and there was another thing as well, was that I could give, previously with Claude, because of the threat limitations and the throttling limitations, I gave it stories and tickets at a time. And like also as well, if I just let me show my Claude thread for a second. Hold on. Like another thing that I done was to kind of be quite well managed on myself with Claude is I would have the ticket IDs. So you can see here OTIF 46, OTIF 45, OTIF 53. But then if I got caught in a thread, then it would be like a version 2 and I'd have to start up a new thread or new conversation to try and get through. And you can see here me sort of going through it and everything was going fine. We've got some other version 2s here. And then all of a sudden I discovered Claude, and then it went from me giving, and actually this is a better way of saying it, what I started giving, sorry, not Claude Cursor. What I started giving Cursor was epics. And I'd give this thing full on epics and it would just run off and just develop it. The first 2 or 3 epics I gave Cursor was absolutely incredible. And I just got so much work done in such a short amount of time that I never thought was achievable. Like, the productivity went up, but then the problem was the productivity went up, and we go back to this key part here. The main failure in most terminal system operations, etc., the user, and I got lazy. Because you can talk with Cursor, but Cursor can just run off and do what it wants to do. And, you know, there's been research done about this, and I think there's some new reports coming out about, you know, you'll ask Cursor to do X. Cursor will do X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6. It will do a lot more than what it needs to do. But I would just sit there, just letting it plow away doing things while I was doing other stuff. And the last 2 or 3 bugs that I've had where I was trying to do some automated testing, which in my mind was an easy couple of tickets to do, I thought would be absolutely fine. You know, basically just run the Kanban board by itself and give me a CSV output of the results so I can figure out level strength. It was just a nightmare is a strong term. It was about 3 days worth of work doing it, and it shouldn't have been 3 days worth of work. And the problem is, I don't have any record of it because I wasn't doing any of these videos. And I wasn't sort of doing my dev diary. Why? Well, because you've just got this loop going on here all of a sudden. Why do you need it anymore? Why do I need to talk? Because I didn't need to work things out anymore because Cursor was doing so much of the work. But then the problem was so that the work that Cursor was doing was actually of a poorish quality compared to what I was doing previously because of the human interaction. So now we need to do version 4. Okay. And the trick of version 4, and the only way that it's going to work, is going to be if me has discipline and keeps to this plan. And if I don't keep to this plan, this isn't going to fly. So here's what we're doing at the moment. There is the user. I'm on my computer. Currently, I'm still using ChatGPT for requirements. I'm debating about using Claude. The reason why is because of that Claude to JIRA loop that can happen where Claude can write tickets and documentation. But then at the same time, so it can write tickets and documentation. So that is to say that I give an informal requirement to Claude. Claude can do that straight part to JIRA. The other problem as well, though, was that, and this was the actual thing, that if I did use Claude again for development, which I'm going to use every now and then because Claude comes in quite handy, particularly up here when I was getting blocked with Cursor, Claude come in quite handy quite a bit in unblocking things. It can also write code as well. And so you write the tickets and documentation, it then reads the JIRA tickets to write the code as well. But I don't know. But what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to stick to ChatGPT, even though they've not got that thing. So they're going to give me the full ticket, and then I've got to copy and paste it into JIRA. Don't know why it's doing that. Yep. Which I need to copy and paste to JIRA. Do you want to know why? And there's a reason why this exists. We'll do this as blue. Fail safe and check. Because the problem is that if that ticket has got one thing wrong in it, or it isn't clear enough, or it isn't put enough limitations that I think of, that will cause this system to fall apart. I need to read the tickets through, particularly on JIRA, because I want to have JIRA as be the single source of truth for all the requirements and documentation. All right. So I've got to do that. Right. And we'll. Oh, where's the line gone? Oh yeah, no, that's from my computer. Yeah. So we're going to do that. We're still going to use Cursor. So once we get the thing, we'll put tickets, not fucking epics, tickets into Cursor. Cursor gives us the code. And then we're going to put Claude over here as a bit of a checkpoint. But the problem is with Claude is that for Claude to be able to read the code, it needs to go into GitHub. So that then actually Claude can read it. So Cursor gives me the code. I need to do a commit to get it into GitHub so that then I can put it into Claude. So then it goes into Godot, and then I can test it, find any bugs, and this whole loop can go along. So yeah. So to sum up what happened, we had version 1, which was ChatGPT. We're copy and pasting. We're building things. Very good at start, but was good at the start, but needed a bit more. Version 2 got good. We unlock with Claude. We start moving at a faster pace because the coding is of a higher standard and it understands what's going on, but we still got these limitations on the throttling. We then get version 2.5 where there's this wonderful Claude and JIRA loop going on, and we're able to get our documentation done quicker, tickets updated, etc. Version 3 was when we discovered Cursor, and version 3 just went off the wire. It just completely went off the wire. And so now we're going to go to version 4, where the key part about it is going to be discipline. So I'm going to set now to myself and to you, the people watching at home, hello. Let's go set ourselves rules. Rules that we must follow. Oh. Okay. Rule number 1. 1 ticket at a time. 2. Read the tickets thoroughly. 3. YouTube video every day. Because at least that keeps me to account. So, yeah. We will see how that goes. But guys, look, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been useful to you. But yeah, I think my main guidance to you is just make sure you've got discipline. Read your requirements before you give it to Cursor, or you can just be stuck there for days. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.